Business Matters. The title suggests many things. The important issue is the world revolves around business, society, organizations, individuals, and even religion survives and thrives because of business. Business has to encompass not just financial commodity and service transactions. It has also to include welfare, justice, empowerment, environmental, and other issues too. Every week, Business Matters will delve into aspects of business that impact our lives. We will seek out extraordinary and ordinary people who have done extraordinary things. Facilitators, educators, and entrepreneurs will be invited to inspire and enlighten our listeners. Join Anwar Mullah for an interactive show and find out what really matters in business.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another Business Matters program on a Monday evening. You with me, Anwar Mullah, and the Business Matters program is brought to you by the Minara Chamber of Commerce. Yes, it's Monday evening. I think it's about 14 minutes past 7, and we have a very welcome, interesting guest in the studio, a person who doesn't need much introduction. He has been on Radio Al Ansar many times in the past. And he is Mr. Ahmed Seedat. Ahmed is from a company called Vector Consulting, and he specializes in the ability to be able to guide and I think help people with the businesses to get their act together, to face the challenges that they have. And he's very, very experienced in that field, and I have had the opportunity and the pleasure of having him on in the studio before, and he's always been his thoughts and comments have always been very welcome and really thought-provoking. So Ahmed, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Radio Al Ansar.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Lovely to have you back in the studio.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, Ahmed, today we're going to focus a bit on retail and wholesale, and kind of approach it from an analytical point of view. I think you were saying to me earlier that you are thinking of doing a seminar in this respect sometime in the future.
Gee.
So, with the help of Amina at the Minara offices, we've managed to get you in here, and we're going to kind of explore in some detail the issue of retail and wholesale. And I know we're living in a very, very challenging environment. Speaking to most business people, they're saying to me that the economy is very, very tight. There's plenty of challenges, and to compound matters now, they have the issue of the rand-dollar exchange rate, which is fueling inflation. So the consumer is under a lot of pressure, and you're going to kind of help us to understand the scenario a little bit more and to unpack what is happening out there. So give us a bit of a background to what this exploring this with analytics is all about.
Anwar, what has happened in the past couple of weeks is that a lot of friends of ours, sort of brothers, impromptu, they are calling me and they're saying, you know what, we are going to our accountants, we are looking at our finances, we're looking at things are tough. How do we look at our business? How we look into our business? And when I saw that this particular topic, people, constantly asking, how do I look into my business? How do I find the depth? And I know that there's some that I can move forward. So at that point in time, I got hold of Amina, and I sent Amina a proposal, and I told her that, Amina, what we need to do is that we need to make your audience out there to understand their business, to understand how they sell their product, how they place their product, how they interact with their consumers, how they interact with their suppliers, how they look at their supply chain. And then as we got talking, she said, you know what, go out there and have a conversation with Anwar first, and then inshallah it will be a stepping stone to having this entire workshop on making people, on retailers, entrepreneurs understand their business much more in detail. And what we found was that many entrepreneurs, many businesses, whether wholesale, retail, manufacturing, or even service industries, they have all the information, they have the data, whether it is in the, many of them are using ERP systems like Sage or any of the local software systems, as well as those that are not using software. And, the amount of information that they have in their business is vast. And what we started doing was that as we engaged with these people, we started taking the information and showing them that, listen, we take your information from you, we take the information from your system. Basically, we are mining your information. It's not right, and we marry your information with your financial statements, and we take that information and make you understand. Example, what is selling in your store? What is the placement of product in your store? And we look at 4 fundamental aspects in your business. And the aspects that we look at is A, your product, the product that you're selling, and the type of product you're selling, your customer, who is your customer that's coming to your store, your supplier. This is something very important. Your supplier, who is your supplier, and also your store operations. So what we do is that when we look at all this information, we are be able to understand, to make you understand, A, are you carrying the right assortment of goods in your store? Are you catering for the right customer for your store? What is the root cause of your increase and decrease in your sales? What is the root cause of your increase and decrease in your margin? And what are your potential out-of-stock situations? Now, this is something very important because in the clothing sector and in some other manufacturing sector, most of the raw materials are imported. And because these raw materials are imported, we need to look at the supply chain of the entire raw material, not only of it from the time you place an order, but you need to look at the manufacturer's manufacturing lead time and the impact of that on your business. So what we look at all of this, and then we start looking at in your business in detail from the information that you are supplying us, which is our loss leaders, which is our loss leader in a range of goods, which is our loss leading department. Sometimes you need a department, or we need a particular product to lure your customers into your store, or to what product is this? So what we do is that we sit down with you, we identify in your business from this trove of information that you have, and we start making you understand each aspect of your business. So when we start with your customer, we look at your product basket. What is your customer spend? Who is your customer? So once you understand your customer spend, then we get you to use that information which you have to target those particular customers, to know that, okay, my customer spend, example, is 50 rands, right? How do we get that customer to spend maximum of his 50 rands in your store? What items in your store are selling at 50 rands? If you introduce items for 75 rands, how much of those items would sell? So what we do is that we sit down with you and identify a product mix that will appeal to your customer at a price point. One is your ranging, getting your right fashion range, getting your right product range, whether you're selling, example, if it's a supermarket chain, whether you're selling 500 ml of a product or 350 ml of a product. It will give you an ideal stock turn to have the right product to fit the sales basket of your customer that's coming to your store. So these are the things that we look at.
Okay, Ahmed, just to stop you there, you've already given us a lot of food for thought, and there's a lot to absorb here. In other words, sometimes, I know it happens in the clothing industry, we tend to stock what we like, rather than looking at it from a customer point of view and saying, what is the customer about, and what does the customer like? So you could have some beautiful merchandise, but it's not trending at that time. It's not what the customer is really looking for. And then you kind of scratch your head and wonder, why am I not doing the turnover I'm expecting to do? My stock levels are high, yet my turnover is not going up. So, are these some of the things that you're alluding to?
Yes, that is what I'm alluding to, Anwar. What happens is that when you sit with wholesalers, we start profiling their customers. We start making them understanding that, okay, if there's certain customers will predominantly selling a certain design or a certain style of product in a certain region. So what happens is that we profile, for a wholesaler, we profile their regions, their customers, we profile their regions, we profile their product, and we marry a product to the region, to the customer. So what happens is that you as an importer or you as a wholesaler, you'll be able to identify, I have customer X either in Griqualand, and what we can do out there is that look at what's the type of styles that they are selling in that regions, because you'll find that in Griqualand or in Zululand or in Northern Natal, the summers tend to be later and longer, and the winters come longer because of the different because of the terrain. So what happens is that you find that you have a late summer or an early winter or vice versa, whatever it is. But what happens is that when we sit down with importers and wholesalers, we are able to manage their supply chain so that you could assist them in managing their working capital.
Okay.
Right. So these are the things when it comes to wholesalers. The same thing comes to manufacturers. So when you sit down with manufacturers, it's a whole manufacturing process. So what you look at during this part of the year or this part of the month, we're making X, Y, and Z product, and this is how we're going to be delivering it. So what we do is that we take the information from you. You have the information. You have all the information. And we use your information to educate yourself. It's no rocket science, but only is the application and the thought and making you understand how to implement. So what we do is that we take your information, we regurgitate it in a way where you'll understand what's happening, and then we start implementing it in test cases. So what happens is that at every step of the process, what we do is that we talk to you and say, okay, we got style X, right? Who does it appeal to? Okay, you'll say this appeals to me because of X, Y, and Z. So what happens is that we start having a conversation with you based on making you understand who your customer is. So what we do is we start opening your mind up based on information which you give us. Now you'll find there might be some people out there will say, but this guy is only talking about about computer information that's in the system. But there are also people out there that run total manual operations up till today.
That's sure, yeah.
Right. And what we do is that we sit down with them and we look at their purchases, and we see that what's the goods that they purchase and how they sell the goods. And from that we do quick analysis based on from the source documents. So all is not lost. You don't have, this is something so easy. What we try to do is that we try to make you understand and love your business more, so that when you understand your business, when you're doing, as you said earlier on, when you're purchasing, okay, you know what, I can marry this product with this customer. I can marry this with this area. So this is how we assist clients like that.
Ahmed, with the retail environment out there today, it has become very challenging because you now have another competitor which is online, and that is, unlike the old days where people had to go out there and shop. Now you can buy anything from a liter of milk to a loaf of bread to the most highly fashionable clothing items, and you have choice. There's a lot of choice online as well. That has put extra pressure on the traditional retailer, like we know that whether they on the streets or they in the shopping malls. And to counter that, it's like a wave hitting you, which is very hard to hold back. Some thoughts on that?
The online business is very exciting. It's extremely exciting. We've done a program for an online business in the Gulf, right? And what we've done over there is that we created baskets. Because it's a FMCG organization, we created baskets. And this baskets, example, we have a 25 Rand basket, we have a 50 Rand basket, and we have a 75 Rand basket. So basically what will happen is that these types of baskets will be able for you as a person that's purchasing, is to make your decision much more easier. On the other hand, here in South Africa, we are still the percentage of people that's buying online is increasing. But what we are finding in the South African market is that they still need the look and feel. This is something very important because the South African market hasn't matured to fashion items or to clothing items to buy online. Many of them are still skeptical, but they would prefer to buy via chat groups, right? They look at the picture on a chat group and they prefer to buy over a chat group. But what we're finding here in South Africa is that retailers, you get quasi-online retailers that have a physical presence. Alhamdulillah, they are doing quite well with an online presence. So what they are doing is that they are marrying online with physical. And what they are finding is that normally the person that's doing the purchase is in a total different city, and the delivery is in a total different area. So what's happening is that when we look at online business, we look at where these type of people, these type of retailers, wholesalers, or online retailers, in which areas they must concentrate their marketing efforts. So where we come back of knowing your customer and getting your customer, so we use a lot of online analytical data to see how we can marry your marketing. This is something very important. Online is 99% marketing and 1% product. That's how we have seen the turnaround, because your marketing is very important. So we assist retailers as well as wholesalers and manufacturers, especially manufacturers that are going directly to the consumer, of how to marry their marketing spend to the return on investment on marketing, using the data, using the clicks, using all of those type of information. So what happens is that we have an analytical tool which we use, right? And this tool assists us to give us definite scenarios, and these scenarios assist the people that engage with us, our clients, to give us the direction to say how we're going to assist the online retailer and how we're going to assist the physical retailer for the hybrid scenarios. But the mechanics is a bit different in analytics when it comes to online and physical store presence.
Very interestingly, Ahmed, I think we need to explore a bit more in depth some of the major challenges that are out there, and how you've kind of helped certain people overcome that. Ahmed, one of the two of the things that you said really got me thinking, and one of the things you said was, do you have the right product? And I was in Johannesburg last week, and I just came back from China, and I took some of the kind of product that I would like to bring in on the clothing side, men's clothing, and I went to see a few retailers. So just as by way of example, I went to some retailers in the Johannesburg region that specialize in more the kind of what I would call a working wardrobe and the marriage type of wardrobe, and I got some ideas from them in terms of what they would like and what I should be bringing in for them. But then I took the same kind of concept and I went through to Pretoria, for example. I went to a store that specializes in a very white Afrikaner market, and all of these brilliant ideas that I had were kind of suddenly thrown out of the window, because the market is different, the colorations that they want are different, the stylings that they want are different. And suddenly I'm sitting there in a quandary saying, well, how do I marry these two? Because it's like I can't bring in everything for everybody. I can't keep everybody happy. But two different customers, literally 80 kilometers apart, and their needs are completely different. So it kind of brought us out when you're saying your stock needs to be relevant for your market. And I think that's important. You need to understand your market.
You have to understand your market. You have to understand your customer, know your customer. As you are in your retail space, so you are in the wholesale space. Knowing your customer is very important. And what we do is that at this point in time, we look at who's from the different type of customers, where you get your maximum return on investment. This is something very important. How you are applying your working capital so you can get maximum return on investment. Now, you'll find that similar to what you have said, there is another client of mine. He's also in a similar predicament. He has the Asian market, he has the white market, as well as he has the emerging middle class market here in South Africa. And what we're finding is that he's also in the fashion industry, but we have started categorizing ranges for these specialized markets. And what we started doing was that we started taking these ranges, looking at these ranges, applying capital based on and seeing what's the best return on investment. So what we did was that we took his working capital requirement. We didn't say no to the customer, because you need your different customers to for your not for your survival, but it's, as we say, our risk is guaranteed. But how to make our business sustainable holistically. So what we did was that we worked on a sales basket for him. We worked out a sales basket based on a similar requirement of what you just said now. And he said, okay, listen, we're going to sell X amount of product. But what we did, we went further. We went back to his supplier. And we went to the supplier and told the supplier, these are the minimum order quantities that we can place and what's the best price that you could give us. And what we did was that we went through the entire supply chain. So to make sure that we could fill this basket, a basket that which he's going to sell will be relevant for him to make a profit, for his supplier to supply him to make a profit, and also for the customer to enable the customer to sell the product in time to pay everybody along the supply chain. That's something very important, because what we find is that if we have the right product for the right customer, your customer is happy to pay you because he knows that he's going to have a good return on investment. So what we did was that in those cases, we started looking at the entire sales basket, right? And we prioritize working capital for each ranges, right? We decided based on the information at hand which product is going to sell in which area, like you alluded, and also what support we are going to get from the manufacturer. That was something very important, so that the manufacturer, yourself as an intermediary and the retailer understood the entire process, and he knows that exactly how each one of you are going to benefit along the supply chain.
But in that respect, as a retailer, right, question of how much of stock to carry, that's a perennial headache, because you either understock or overstock. I've never heard many people say we've just got enough stock. And the biggest problem you can have is if you're understock, you're not doing the turnover, now you have a cash flow issue, which means that you're actually not buying again because you should be stocking up, but you're not. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of getting the business to become worse and worse off. Now, I know in Gujarati, our grandparents used to tell us that it was a very good saying. We say that, mal oi to vechai. In other words, if you got the goods, you'll sell it. If you don't have goods, you'll never sell it. So you have to have stock to do the turnover, because if you don't have the stock, you can't do the turnover. So, people say, well, hold it. You know what? I'll buy in 2 or 3 months' time because at the moment I'm experiencing some cash flow difficulties. And that can lead to the death of a business, because you have these cash flow difficulties, but as long as there's no new stock coming in, you're not going to do the turnover.
That's correct, Anwar. What happens is that many people have become complacent because they feel that, we'll have X amount of stock that will carry us through. But what we're finding is that let's have the right amount of stock in the business.
And the right stock at that. And the right amount and the right stock.
The right amount and the right stock. So that's what we're doing. We're getting you to maximize your capital. So you got the right stock at the right time. You are paying your bills timeously. You're doing all. And what happens is that you'll be able to work out which department you have in your business which is giving you the highest loss as well. So and the best return. That is something very important. And what we find is that, and at which price you are optimally selling your product, so that you know that the so-called dead stock will move as well. So what we're doing is that we're taking that information from you, where you're saying that, this is not selling. Why is it not selling? Right? Why is it not selling? And we start analyzing that. And based on your past sales, future sales, that stock, you'll say you got enough stock, your shelves are full, but there's no guarantee you're going to sell it, because, as you said, it's a fashion item and could be out of season, right? Unless if it's one color. They say anything but black. That's what Henry Ford said, right? I make anything but black. But what happens?
He said it make anything as long as it's black.
Make anything as long as it's black, right? So basically, he knew what he was doing because he needed to get out in the market, right? So what I'm saying is that the people, we assist them to make sure that they got the right stock level, so they manage the capital properly. So, as I told you earlier on, we get referrals coming from accountants. And accountants are saying, this guy, he's got his fundamentals are right. We are not operationally involved in his business, and we are not giving him the advisory side of it. So what you are doing is that we complement the accountants with them. We work with his accountant, and we say, okay, this is your trading pattern, right? And which his accountant will back it up. Right, and then from his trading pattern, we look at the stock sold. We'll go much more deeper. What sold, and we'll tell him, okay, brother, sister, this is what you need to do. and get him back to understand his business. Because what's happening over the period of time, many people are becoming complacent. They said, you know what, I'm buying this thing here, it's not selling, I don't know what I'm doing. But 3 years down the line, or last season, I bought something, I sold it. But why is it happening to me now? The stock is there, I got the stock, but it's not selling. Right? So all we're doing is that we're getting him we shake him up a little bit, in a sense, make him understand that, you know what, this stock will sell at X price. So what we do is that we get him to see whether he's selling at the right price. Right? This is where margin differentiation comes in. You'll be able to sell, example, in a suit, you could sell an example. You're a suit man. I know that, right? I know you're a suit man. But what
I'm glad to see you got a suit jacket on.
Yeah. There's a long story behind this. I'll tell you after the show. What happened is that you might sell 44s, right? 44s, 46s, 48s at the X price, X margin. So maybe your 42s to 48s are good sellers. But then you'll find that your 50s and 52s and 54s are mainly for people that will buy for occasions. Or people that, because these are normally bigger size people that prefer putting a shirt on or something, right? So you need to look at those type of customers that come to. So when you're selling your 42s to 48s, what size 42 to 48s in your suits, you'll be able to understand, okay, I'm going to sell X amount and it will sell during this period, right? Either it's for, because it's mainly the younger, trendy customers that will come for, or the fashion conscious. And as you said earlier on, for the wardrobe customer, those that are looking a jacket or something, for much more formal wear, so they'll look at it differently. So, those type of things where we sit down and we work with these people to try and get the act together, right, on managing their product, the inventory correctly.
I think the days where one stood outside your store in Grey Street and you just expected a customer to walk in, and sometimes you kind of had somebody outside saying Gana, Gana, or walk in, whatever it was. I think those days are limited. Today, the customer has become much more savvy in terms of what his requirements are, what he wants, and also become very price conscious in terms of what he wants to pay. Because the internet has opened up a whole world where a person literally, in his hand has got a tool where he can browse the world, so to speak, and see so much. And the retailers are also, for example, I'm going back to the fashion industry, where they're getting customers walking in saying, and showing them on the phone, I want this color in this style, whatever. Whereas the guy said, wow, it didn't happen in the past, where in the past, customer walked in, you had an offering and he bought off your offering. Now he's coming in and telling you what he wants, expecting you to be able to source that for him. So that the whole trends have changed dramatically over time. And again, if you're not there and you're not up with it, you're going to be lost. Now, no buyer is a perfect buyer. No retailer is a perfect retailer. And again, this is something that I learned quite young in life, where one of the chain store buyers said to me, he was a manager of the buyers, and he said to me, Anwar, if all my buyers were buying stuff that was selling 100% of the time, I would be very upset, because I know they're only buying safe. They're not taking any risk or not being innovative enough to bring in some fashionability. So there have to be some so-called dogs in the store as well. But then when you identify what those dogs are, you can't sit on them. And I think that is a failing of a lot of the retailers, is if I don't get a certain margin on my goods, I will not sell it out. But then you're tying up capital and you're not able to bring in new goods. And I think you need to just expand a little bit on that.
Anwar, I have a client, right? I'll give you a case study. This client is in a high fashion game. Extremely high fashion. He's not involved in the retailer market, right? And what happens is that he himself is involved with mainly high fashion, high trend. And what we're finding is that the capital tie-up, right? We have to marry margin, right? With margin with the product and the customer. So what we find in that particular, in the high fashion games, in the high fashion stakes, we work with product at a certain margin and carry a certain stock level, right? Because you find that when a customer walks in, they want X product just to cater for themselves because they don't want that particular range to be with somebody else, right? Because they are in the interior decorating space in a home textile space, very high end. And what we find is that when we sit down with them and we work out ranges, and when we work out, as you said, the dogs, right? You'll find that there's an 80-20 split, right? You're only hitting right about 20-25%, right? The other 75 to 80% you are not hitting right? So what happens is that we tend to work those ranges in different regions, right? And as you said earlier on, tech savvy and these ranges, what happens is that we do a lot of target marketing in different areas, right? So if you bring a range, and this particular range for a high end, as you said, it will appeal for a certain market. We do a lot of target marketing in those areas so that we carry an entire range. Part of the range will appeal in Limpopo, part of the range will appeal in the Western Cape, or part of the range will appeal in Namibia. So what happens is that we look at that, and that's how we work with these people, and we move ranges into different jurisdictions. So we sit down with them and explain to them. Now, this is from a retailer or a wholesaler who's tech savvy and using the internet, using social media quite extensively. On the other hand, as you said, that you're having a retailer that's coming, example of a Grey Street retailer or a Queen Street retailer. What you find over there is that a lot of people in those environments, the first thing they do is that the customer will stand at the door, right? They'll either look at the window display or they stand at the door and then they'll come in. Based on the ergonomics of the store, the lighting, the floor, the setup, they come in and they look at that. And what happens is that within those designs or within those layouts of the store, we have we have layouts where it's going to appeal to a person of a certain style. They'll appeal to a certain style, and next to that, we'll have another product. We'll find that if it's a dog, whether we can move this dog. So all we're doing is that we're working with them on getting the placement right, where the ideal shelf space, the ideal floor space, as well as getting the store dimensions right. How the person walks into the store. If they stand at the store, if you got 9 out of 10 times, if you're still walking Grey Street, which we do from time to time, or in certain other urban areas, we see the interaction of the customer from the time they are walking to the store. You find that downtown Johannesburg, with all due respect, there are a few retailers that still are diehard retailers that are there. And how they work with their customers is that people know that this is a destination store and I'm going to get X, Y, and Z product. The same thing happens downtown in Durban, right? So they know there is one particular store, you know them very well. Up till today, they're in one corner of town, and people still go to that corner of town because they know they're going to get a formal outfit and, X, Y, and Z. But in that retailer as well, what happens is that you also have your dogs, but you also have certain lines which to draw the customer in. So if you're catering for a formal outfit for the father, for the mother, you need to have something where you are catering for the younger people so you can bring them in. Now, coming to your so-called dogs, right, or laggards, as you call them.
Before you go any further, I'm just thinking now, on a lighter note, what we call the dogs or the slow-moving items.
The laggards.
The laggards. There's a good term that people use. Also, they call them the garjamais.
Yes.
So let's talk about the dogs or the garjamais that are sitting there.
Okay, so what happens is that getting them out, as is the garjamai term, it's a topic for another discussion. But normally garjamais are.
Garjamais, once they get in, they don't move out.
Once they get in, they don't get out.
Get very comfortable.
Extremely comfortable. And something when they get.
So we don't want these goods to become comfortable in the stores.
So what happens is that we work with you, the retailer or the wholesaler, to place the goods in the right place. So in which department? So basically what happens, as I said earlier on, getting the ergonomics or the layout of the store right. So when a person walks into the store, where's the placement? What do you want them? What's the first item to come in? to catch the eye. Like I was involved with a shoe retailer, extensive shoe retailer up in Gauteng, Limpopo, and in Mpumalanga, where we ran a project with them for close on to 18 months. And what we did with the particular retailer was that in a retail industry, it was always fashion, because they were high fashion local retailer competing online with the foreigners, right? And in the malls. So what was happening was that placement was becoming very important. And this is what I learned. A lot of what we learned here, we do the analytics, but over the years, being involved with elder people, right? Most of our clients are 50 plus. And some of the people that I'm involved with at the moment are, they've got a lot of institutional knowledge, 60, 65. Today, I was with a client who was 73 years old. So basically, they have a lot of institutional knowledge. So when you speak to them and tell them about X, Y, and Z and how you do this and that, and they'll come back and tell you, what, back in the day, this is how we did it. Yeah. But there's no difference from then to now, because you find that the customer is always looking for something where he wants it to have it the first time at the right price, right? The color, the size, everything must be at the right price. And what happens is that in a fashion game, you got one hit, one season.
Sure.
Right. So what happened is that when you're sitting with these people, that's all they want. They want one hit, one season and out. So when a retailer walks in and they say, no, you know what, I came in here and I got my size, whether it was, example, in the 42, 44, and next minute he comes in and said, you know what, there's not enough, but I'm sitting with 44, 46, right? So the guy knows that, these guys are keeping this type of merchandise, and in the next season, the next style, I know I have to get here early. So what happens is that is where now your marketing comes in. So presently many people are creating their own WhatsApp groups or social media groups, and on social media they are creating this trend where people are following them on social media. So as we have the person that's walking in and from your store as your Gena, right? You find that people are looking now, that trend, part of it has moved to social media.
That's right.
Right, and they moved it to social media, and when you look at it, that's why your social media advertising is very important. So what happens is that now if you are targeting a certain age group, you find that you geo-fence to know that, okay, this range is coming in. Basically, what we're going to do is that we got this type of product, mainly where our customers are coming from, and what they're doing is that they're targeting the advertising to those age groups and those regions where they know that they'll come through. So your walking customer now is used to social media.
Okay, Ahmed, excellent. I think you've really given any wholesaler or retailer out there a lot of food for thought. And if they are having these challenges in their businesses, there's a lot that can be done. Don't give up. There's a solution to a problem.
There is a solution. That's correct.
Now, the last thing I want to touch on before we close the program, and I'm going to ask you for some closing remarks, is there's also this issue and in our community as well, where we also don't want to hand over the reins to the younger generation. And I'm sure you're smiling, but you've probably seen this many, many times. Is in Marucha, it's mine. I want to sit with this kind of thing, And that also causes problems because you need fresh blood coming in and you need fresh ideas coming in. So,
Anwar, you touched on a passion of mine, which is succession in family-owned businesses, passing the generation from passing the baton from one generation to the other generation. And as I told you that I'm very passionate about the subject. I'm very passionate about family business succession. All these things that we talked about now, it's about preservation of wealth in family-owned businesses, right?
Correct, yeah.
It's all about preservation of wealth, of how we could go forward. And what we're doing is that...
But preservation of wealth is one thing, but you need to grow that wealth because inflation eats it up very quickly.
That's correct. So what we do is that we find that by sitting with the elders, we are creating that bridge with the youngsters, with the generational gap. We sit in the center, and when the youngsters want that gap to be bridged and make the elders understand what's happening, so what happens is that we come in and we work with the as a bridge, as many people don't like to hear this name, but being a diplomat or say that Kissinger was around, right? So many people call me that because of trying to put things together, right? So what happens is that those people that are holding, we call them the gatekeepers, right? And those that want to take over the guys that the entitlers. So what we do is that we bridge that gap and make them understand, okay, you want to take over this business. Do you know what to look for in the business? Right? Do you know how to go forward in the business? Do you know what to expect? One is taking over, but what are you going to do with it? We had, in the past 3-4 years, I know you was in thick of things of one, where in the past 3 years, where a fourth generation came into a business, where the third generation handed to a fourth generation, they made a kachumbar of it. I'll use the term kachumbar, and now what has happened is that they are rebuilding. But the point is that they need to be educated. It doesn't mean that you are educated from a university, but you also have to be street smart. You need to understand the basics of business. Many of them, they don't understand the basics of business. So by bridging this gap between the gatekeepers and the entitlers, so what we do is that we bridge this gap and make them understand this is your business. This is how your business operates. This is the return of investment you need to do, right? And look at your business right now. Are you buying right? It's no use you saying that, I do all my business on a golf course, or you'll find me on Florida Road at a coffee shop enjoying my breakfast and talking about something X, Y, and Z. It doesn't make sense. All we're doing is that we're making them understand this is your business, this is what you're doing. Do you know what's your return? Do you know the wealth, whether you're creating wealth or you're not creating wealth? Right. So this is a major challenge at the moment of what we're doing, and it's happening in our community. And alhamdulillah, I just come back now from a talk on this. I was in the Gulf at the end of last month, and alhamdulillah, we spoke about this quite extensively. And we need more people to accept their responsibility to say that, we need to educate ourselves on this business soft skills. Once we're getting the education in universities, or we're coming with titles, but at the same time, what is the soft skills that need to take us forward? So we need to understand that. So what we are doing presently, we are educating, we are filling the gap in that education to try and make sure that the gatekeepers and the entitlers, they can work together harmoniously.
Okay, Ahmed, we've kind of run out of time. I think we can go on talking for a while. Okay. Some closing remarks, please.
Alhamdulillah, you need to understand where you're going in life. Make sure that whatever you have, you need to look after it, preserve it, right? As well as make a good return. And out there, the world is your oyster, and enjoy your business, understand your business, enjoy your family, and most of all, be grateful of what you have, because many people out there don't have what you have, but be grateful. And inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will make it asan for you and make it easy for you to enjoy what you have.
Alhamdulillah. Wise words indeed. And with that, I think we shall sign off for tonight. Inshallah, we'll be back with another interesting guest next week on the Business Matters program. I hope to have my feet on the ground. I've been really all over the show the last 3 or 4 weeks and not been in the studio, but I think I'm back now until Bakrid, inshallah, and then travel again after that. So Ahmed, thanks for coming in once again. You've been really enlightening, and inshallah, as you alluded to earlier in the program, maybe we will get something going through the Minara chamber and set up something so that retailers and wholesalers can benefit from the wealth of knowledge that you have and the experiences that you have, which you prepare to share with everybody else.
No, inshallah. It's not only me. I have a team that works with myself. There's 18 of us in different fields, different areas, right? So inshallah, it's a team effort. So inshallah, we are looking to part this knowledge. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you, Zakaria, for being behind the mic again tonight, as usual, being its efficient self. And with that, it's wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Business Matters.